after 6, I'm going to open up the Area Hospital District Board meeting. I'm going to call it to order, and the first item of business, we will do public comment. I'm going to read a statement. Initially, we have a list here somewhere. Do I have it, Denise?
You have the forms, individual forms.
Okay, thank you. We will go through those. And then if there's anyone online who wishes to make a public comment, we will try to address that. Can you hear me fine?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So public comments period is intended for the public to share ideas and concerns. It is not intended for an interactive discussion with the board. During any designated comment period, individuals shall not engage in personal attacks, not impugn the motives of any speaker, and shall always, while in session, conduct themselves in an appropriate manner. No person shall make personal, impertinent, slanderous, or become boisterous while addressing the board. We would ask that the members of the public follow the behavioral standard of kindness that we strive for as an organization daily, honoring and respecting others with courtesy, respect, and professionalism, which I know you always do. So I'm going to start, and I think we did this, that worked out all right. I will mention the first name. I'm going to ask you to come up to the podium. You'll have 3 minutes. Megan, will you be our timekeeper? Or
Okay, yeah, I'll be the timekeeper.
Either one.
I can do.
And just inform them when there's 1 minute left.
Will do.
Okay, thank you. So I will call who's coming up first, and then whoever's on deck so that you're ready. First speaker is I'm going to apologize. Gail Thigili.
Yes.
Did I say that okay? Okay. And then behind that is Kathleen Packer. Please, come on up.
I was a resident of Coos County for 77 years until May. I moved and I live in Springfield now, but I've been hearing from a number of all the nurses that are retired now that I ever worked with. We know nothing about our pensions. We've heard nothing. If it will continue, does that roll over to their responsibility? Or is this a bill that's an unpaid bill by the hospital district? And I wondered if anyone could provide some information on that. And yes, you do know what's going to happen, or no, you don't. I can accept that, but it would really be helpful to just about every nurse that maybe Tom has worked with at one point. We all need. I saw you walk through the doors of ER for the first time when you came to the area, so glad to see you. But that's all I have is the concerns about pension. And if you could give some information, because I'm taking it back to the nurses that I know that are retired in the Lane County area. So thank you very much.
Welcome. Thank you. If you stay late, maybe you could catch someone.
You don't have an answer then?
Well, again, we're going to try to keep it straight to this is a period for your comments.
Oh.
And we're just going to listen to them and thank you for them.
Thank you.
Ms. Packard. After that is Roberta Richardson.
So
I apologize. I didn't mention, when you do step up, would you please just repeat your name and then?
yes, my name is Kathleen or Kate Packard, and I'm going to ask something. I hope it won't take any of my time. Could you very quickly go through the people who are here and what your role is, so we know who we're speaking to? And this does not seem to be on. Is it on now?
I'm sorry. This is a comment period to address the board of the Area Hospital District.
I understand it, but I think it would be fair for us to know who we're speaking to.
Well, again, I'm trying to be polite, and I hear you're saying it's not a big deal, but there's name tags here, and I want to make sure that there's appropriate time for everyone to have their 3 minutes comment.
Okay, I've been a part of the Coos Bay North Bend community for almost 50 years. I only found out about the hospital mess when I read Judy and Tracy's January 5th op-ed. As I talk to my friends and neighbors, nearly everyone is ignorant of what is going on under our noses. I know it is hard to get the word out, but I have seen no effort on the part of the board to reach out. How about a public forum, a postcard sent to residents, an alert in the world about a huge change in local health care? My husband and I operate a bed and breakfast where we host guests from all over the world. Many come to us with an interest in moving here, often to escape heat or wildfire hazard. A strong selling point is our hospital. I believe we are on the cusp of a large influx of population trying to escape the effects of climate change. They are not going to come if we don't have a hospital. You say, well, we will have a hospital with quorum's help. Surely everyone knows the record of private equity firms taking over healthcare. It is not good. Quorum's record is worse than most. They are in dire straits financially as well, and there can be little doubt that Bay Area Hospital will ultimately be sacrificed to save themselves. We are promised that services will not be reduced. That's easy to promise, since it seems that Bay Area is doing the dirty work of eliminating services before Quorum takes over.
1 minute.
At no point have CEO Moore and the board been inclined to investigate or pursue a local option. There has been no transparency from the outset. Whether or not this deal goes through, I suggest that Mr. Moore be relieved of his position. This has happened on his watch. His refusal to entertain any alternatives should not be rewarded with a continuance of his employment. Do we really want an entity whose primary mission is to make money in charge of our health care? There's a fundamental conflict in goals here. And we are not the only ones. Health operations all over the country are collapsing with the impacts of the pandemic and the inability of low-income populations to cover costs. It is part of the growing chasm between the haves and the have-nots. Private equity represents the 1%. We are the other 99%. We must insist that our health institutions survive with our care as their primary mission. I am part of a group that is formed to oppose the takeover by Quorum. It's a late date and an uphill battle, but I will give it everything I've got.
Excuse me, your 3 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you. So Roberta Richardson. And then after that is John Anderson.
Hi. Is it working?
It is. I think you can probably turn it down if you wish.
No, it's okay. So I was caregiver of both my parents for 10 years, and that included a lot of visits to the hospitals. And so I am well acquainted with the necessity of having a hospital in the area in case of an emergency. And it makes me very nervous that the little hospitals in Coquille and Reedsport may be overwhelmed if this hospital goes under. When I lived in Florida, there was a little natural food store in town, and we were all excited when we found out that Whole Foods was going to buy them because we figured we'd get more products. And they bought them and brought in all their new products, and then in a month, they closed it down. And I'm afraid that's what's going to happen to the hospital here. And I have spoken to my coworkers, and they had no idea that this was happening at all, or the implications thereof. I've heard about private equity firms. They're also known as vulture capitalists, and it makes me extremely uneasy. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Anderson. After Mr. Anderson is Tracy Sweely.
My name is John Anderson. The public has not been allowed input in their hospital board's crisis and solutions. As elected representatives, it is the duty of the board of directors to consult with and involve the citizens they represent. Transparency is of utmost importance for the elected officials to maintain the trust and confidence of the electorate. The Bay Area Hospital Board of Directors has failed in your commitment to the members of the Bay Area Hospital District, the citizens of Coos County, and the state of Oregon. We, the people of the Bay Area Hospital District, demand a broad public hearing and referendum to approve or deny the agreement being pursued with Quorum. We, the people of the hospital district, with the citizens of Coos County, Curry County, and the state who depend upon hospitals, will fight this ill-timed Quorum attempted takeover of our hospital. We demand a transparent public process for our publicly owned hospital. Seeking a solution behind closed doors that will transfer control to a hedge fund is out of the question. The December agreement was described as a non-binding agreement, and now we find it is a binding 10 to 30-year agreement. There are many organizations willing to evaluate how they can contribute to a viable local option. The community must be asked to participate.
1 minute.
Or the community will cry foul and suspect the board along with the intentions of quorum. The business leaders and residents demand a transparent, open process to solve our hospital problem for our families and our future. Thank you very much for your time and your patience.
Thank you. And after that is Judy Moody.
Tracy Sweeley, Coos Bay. After public comment at the January 14th board meeting, board member Renee Nelson indicated that some of the public comment was, in her words, hateful. The term is not accurate nor sufficiently precise. In response to its financial crisis, hospital leadership held a single public input session last summer and ran a limited online survey composed of suggestive questions that guided respondents to predetermined conclusions. They have had a trust me bro attitude to public comment at board meetings. These make their efforts at public engagement appear to be a sham. Their lack of genuine engagement has given community members every right to express their anger about a decision that will irrevocably change the nature of the hospital in far-reaching ways. Members of the community feel like they are being sold down the river. Leadership's ongoing negotiations behind closed doors in their single-minded pursuit of a risky partnership that gives up all authority over hospital operations to a private equity-owned firm has broken the social contract between the hospital district and the wider community. The lack of transparency and accountability for its financial crisis points to leadership operating as if this hospital is a private entity rather than a public one that is owned by and answers to the community. Everything taken together has given the strong appearance of impropriety, which further undermines any trust community members are entitled to have in a hospital district's leadership. I understand the League of Women Voters has extended an invitation to leadership to participate in a public forum in order to take questions from community members about their strategy. Leadership's participation could go a long way to rebuilding trust. However, it could also be too late. Others have been warning the board for many months about the potential consequences of this dynamic, but leadership has never really gotten in front of this to establish control over the narrative in the community where it matters. It should not be a surprise to anyone then that the community is effectively and actively organizing against the affiliation with Quorum Healthcare along every possible front. I will leave those for others to describe. I would just add that if members of the community present here make public comment, please consider submitting your comment to the World newspaper as an open letter to the board so that members of the wider community who are unable to attend board meetings may benefit from your perspective. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Moody. After that is Brandon Sada.
Judy Moody, Coos Bay. At the last board meeting, board member Patrice Parrott stated that the last CEO spent all the money and then left. The last CEO was the late Paul Yankee. I called a friend who was on the board when Paul was hired and during his tenure. Her comment to that statement was that is absolutely not true. He knew how to manage a hospital. His father was the CEO of a large hospital in St. Paul, Minnesota, and Paul worked in hospitals learning from the ground up. Paul left a legacy at this hospital. He has no responsibility for what has happened after he retired. That is the responsibility of this board and the CEO. When things started going south with the hospital, I'd like to know if any of the executives took a cut in pay. Were bonuses put on hold till you could turn this around? Were superfluous positions that could be handled by a volunteer, such as the chaplain, eliminated? This board seems to be upset with the public comments that have occurred over the last few months. You defend your position after every public comment session with no accountability and no humility. You attempt to make us wrong. The public of this community did not allow the LNG plant to come here, and we are going to do everything we can to make sure Quorum Health does not lease this hospital, including, but not limited to, a campaign to channel public comment to the OHA Healthcare Marketplace Oversight Program, a campaign to promote public letter writing to state legislators to support House Bill or Senate Bill 951 and Senate Bill 1000 and the UCFW efforts, filing Freedom of Information Act requests where possible to provide information to the public, promoting candidates to replace the 4 board member seats up for election in May, initiating a referendum to overturn the quorum affiliation with a public vote in November. This is not your private fiefdom to do as you please behind closed doors.
Thank you. Mr. Sada. So that is Jennifer Briggs. Ready about it.
I want to flip the script a little bit and look at this a little differently. I want everyone to look at these people and they're volunteers, but at the same time, it's very clear that there's a huge line between here and here. Like, this has been nothing but criticism like the last few minutes. And that it can be taken as criticism, or it could be taken as maybe that's something we need to improve upon. And I would rather than criticize, like to ask, how can the people here help you guys? Because if there's so much speculation and so much rumor, these people are asking for the right answers. How can we get everyone here in this room on the same page? Because everyone here lives in the same town. And I'll be honest with you, 3 minutes is not quite enough. And it's not really the right format for this kind of discussion anyway. And at this point in time, the hospital's clearly in an emergency state. And I don't think there'd be anything wrong with maybe forming a whole nother committee just to deal with this situation right here. And I don't see why the city council couldn't have initiated a town hall meeting, invited you, because I know that there'd be weird complications with your situation, but I'm sure there's ways around it because we're such a small town. And like the chaplain thing, it bothers people because no one's really addressed it directly. But at the same time, we're in a small town. Like, how many people are theology divination people? Like, I don't have a title in that. And to be honest with you, I don't feel like, from my point of view, there has been enough back and forth between the hospital, because I didn't even know what a special entity was until like a month ago. I didn't even know those hospitals still existed. Every hospital I ever worked at was a private entity, and none of these people's comments would matter. Right? So it's very strange to me to even be in a situation where having town hall talks and even having the ability to say, technically, what is the responsibility of a community hospital? Is it to maintain the profit? Yes, but is it also to make sure that the other clinics and hospitals in the area could work together? I just haven't seen the community part about the special entity. Really, I don't understand how it works, because it doesn't seem like it is working. And I don't know if it's because it's from a 1970s paperwork and that stuff needs to be updated on how we do it in modern day times with modern day problems, but maybe it's something that the books need to be adjusted. I just want to say, I'm here to help you guys connect. And if there's something we can do to help you make that happen, how can we help you guys help us help you? Like, there's definitely there's too much fighting in this room right now, and I'm getting irritated just listening. And no offense to Troy, your responses have been a little irritating too. You feel like you're angry. I know you're angry. If I was on that board right now, I would feel the same way as these guys. I would be closed-minded right now, and I'm so sorry, Megan. I'm sorry. That's my point. Like these 3 minutes, I could be talking for another 15 minutes, and I don't mean to be like this, but technically speaking, it's a free speech thing. We can say whatever we want. But I'm just saying, like, this is not healthy what's going on in this room. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Briggs. After that is Terry Whitty.
Okay, I don't even, yes, the microphone is a little bit working. Okay. My name is Jennifer Briggs. Sorry, Brandon, but this board has lost the trust of the public. Having lived in this town for 19 years and spoken with hospital employees across various roles over that time, I've witnessed a troubling decline in workplace morale. For most of those years, staff were generally satisfied. However, about 6 years ago, stress and dissatisfaction became more the norm than not the norm. The transition to the Epic EMR system worsened matters, as that lacked the software to even do OBGYN billing, leading to months of lost billing at the height of the COVID pandemic. I personally know someone whose baby was born for free at this hospital. Former employees now express relief at leaving. Even more concerning, some of the staff that has been laid off were asked to sign NDAs upon departure. While this may be common in private hospitals, it is highly questionable for a public institution. Why the secrecy? Currently, many employees fear speaking out due to possible retribution. The current resignation of the only board member opposing the majority and the administration further validates these concerns. This board must ask itself, are you truly aware of staff experiences under current management, especially given reports that the proposed quorum merger would guarantee management years of continued employment? I had a troubling conversation today with a community member who spoke with 2 different board members and also attended the Chamber of Commerce event at the Mill Casino. They accepted the solution of the partnership with Quorum, but came away from all of those unaware that Quorum is a for-profit company backed by private equity investors. Where is the transparency and the explanation? So I ask you, how can you expect the public to just trust you after so many missteps? The community deserves transparency and real accountability. Please stop this process with Quorum and begin a search for a solution that includes all stakeholders. Thank you.
Thank you. Whitty. After that is John Whitty.
Carrie Whitty. I've lived here all my life. It's been a long time. It's a wonderful place. We need this hospital. We need it to be run without a bigger entity looking to make profit from it. And this lack of transparency keeps coming up. And it's sad, and I just have to say it's kind of suspicious when things are done behind closed doors. But I do know that it is easier to go ahead with your own plans without having any oversight. This cancer center is a godsend to so many of us. And the hospital itself has been a source of pride and something that we can count on. But I'm really worried that things are going too far in the wrong direction, and we will just become another way for quorum to make money and sell. Anyway, thank you very much. I appreciate all of you. And I know it's hard.
Thank you. Mr. Whitty. After that is Brent Lurwell.
Hi, my name is John Whitty. I was on the board when we built this hospital. I lived in this community for 92 years and most of a month. And I'm not going to say very much because I think everyone that's spoken so far has said it as well as or better than I could. And I just hope that somehow the board can find its way to involving the local clinics, which I understand have both volunteered to work together with you to create a new structure and give us a chance to go on with our healthcare lives without having to please some stranger from way out of town. And I have to say one more thing and then I'll quit. And that is, if I were on the board, I would really look hard at the management that you've got here, and particularly the one who apparently hired his own spouse as the chaplain for a salary more than most people make in their whole lives. And I just don't think that's a very good idea.
Thank you. Mr. Lowell. That is Robin Sherry.
Hi, my name is Brent Lorwell. I'm a newcomer to Coos County. I've just been here 34 years. And I want to diverge a little bit from what the energy I've been feeling so far and tell a warm and fuzzy story about the hospital. In '96, I broke my back and I was in here for 3 weeks. And I'm noticing myself kind of choking up right now. It's a very emotional thing. What I was impressed with the care I got here, logically, I knew these people were being paid. This was their job. But my mind and my soul interpreted it as love. I felt great love, great care by everybody without exception. Since then, every time I drive by here, I have this warm and fuzzy feeling, like being home. I don't want to lose this. If we lose this hospital, it's going to be devastating to this county and 2 or 3 counties on either side of us. We can't lose it. It will not only devastate the quality of life, but economically, it just can't happen and this county continue to exist. I believe that our percentage of older people like me is higher in this county than in the surrounding counties or most of Oregon. I can't quote the figures, but I believe that's true. I want and fully intend to live out my life here in Coos County. If this hospital closes, I probably won't be able to do that. I'll probably have to leave for my own survival. I really don't want to see that happen. Quorum, as I understand what I read, of 38 hospitals they have rescued, 26 of them were closed for profit or liquidation. That's almost 70%. That's not a very good track record. I don't want to see that happen. And I'm not rich by any means, but if it means paying more taxes in this county to help support this hospital and keep it going, I'm willing to do that. I want to pay more taxes, damn it.
Thank you. Great. That'll be the final in-person speaker, and then we'll inquire if anyone online would like to speak.
Hi, my name is Robin Terry. I've lived my whole life in Coos County. I plan to work at Berea Hospital 40 years. I want to be insured, that I have a job where I can help serve my community. I would like to thank the board or whoever set up the room for listening to us so that you guys are seeing us. I want to thank you guys for all doing what you do on the board and that you're listening. It'd be nice if you could possibly have a meet and greet where we could talk to you guys and you could interact with the staff so that we understand the transparency. I know that the board's a hard decision. I'd like to thank all members of our executive team because I've had a single question for every single one of you, and you guys have been able to give me an answer in the last month. And I just want people to know that our hospital staff, most of us are committed to be through you guys with thick and thin, to be here to serve our community. Because you, not only do you help me get my paycheck, you let me serve each and every one of you. And we see patients in my department from Brookings to Florence, out to Roseburg. Sometimes people come back to get the care here. And we are committed, or at least I am committed to be here to serve. And hopefully you guys work with us and let us have a collaborative and open communication. Thank you.
Thank you. And did I hear you say there was no one online who wished to speak?
I sent the message out again and nobody's wanted to send out a second.
I'm going to go ahead and close the public comment section. Thank everyone for their comments. And then we will go to the report of the chairperson. And I'm going to apologize to the rest of the board because I'm sort of springing this on you. But I've been talking to Brian, and what we would like to do is try to set up maybe as early as next week what we would call an open house. And that would be essentially maybe this room with tables around the outside of the room, and in each table would be a board member and maybe a few of the executive team there. And we'd be there for a certain amount of time, 4 to 6, and you would be welcome to come in and wander up to the table and ask whatever question that you wish and have those discussions. We've been discussing that since the middle of last week. And part of it kind of stemmed from, I think that we have mentioned on several occasions, our contact information is there, our phone number's there, and please feel free to reach out to us. And I personally have not had anyone reach out to me personally and say, hey, can we meet for coffee and talk about this? Because I would be happy to do that even now. So we will work on that. That is a loose format that I had talked to Brian about, and this is what I'm apologizing to the board because, I mean, you don't have to be there, but I know I will be there, and if we can get this figured out, and I think that'll be a format. We could even do like, sorry, I'm probably talking more than you care about right now, but like butcher paper on the table. So if you had stuff you wanted to write down, there would be some sort of a consensus of where thoughts and conversation will go. That's my rough idea, just so you know that's out there. I'm going to go into my board chair comments now, or my report of the chairperson. And I'm going to change gears just a little bit. Over the weekend, I was able to attend the SDAO conference, which stands for the Small District Association. And they're mostly made up of like water districts or rural fire districts and such. And there's a few hospitals involved. But really, for what they do, we're a pretty large member of their organization. But they have lots of sessions and on finance and board members and so on and so forth. So I attended it over the weekend. It was a well-attended conference, and I feel like I got quite a bit of benefit out of those. One session I attended was titled Board Member 101 and reviewed what a board is and what a board member's responsibilities are. One particular segment was especially impactful for me as I'm contemplating and thinking continually about, what we're doing and how it's going. There are some legal obligations that a board member is obligated to in exercising their fiduciary duties on behalf of a district. One of those is called duty and care. The first part of that is to give the level of care and concern to their board responsibilities as any prudent, ordinary person would. Another point there is that they would actively participate in meetings and on committees. And the third is that they would actively work with other members of the board to advance the mission and goals of the district. The second part is duty and loyalty, and that's defined as the board member places the interest of the district ahead of their own interests at all times. A third portion was duty of obedience, and that was essentially to ensure that the district is abiding by all laws and regulations. Another portion of that is that the board members carry out the district's mission in accordance with its statutory and adopted policies. And what I wanted to say when I got out of this, how proud I am of all the board members up here that I feel like have been diligently following those responsibilities as a board member through this challenging time. I appreciate and want to commend them through this entire process by living those tenets. I would like to acknowledge that I've appreciated leadership's or the executive team's leadership and their continuity through this entire process, which has been challenging to everyone. 87% of hospitals are considering alignment with another hospital or system as part of their overall strategic planning. Primarily, this is due to structural factors in the industry, including poor reimbursement environment, healthcare regulations, which put independent hospitals at a competitive disadvantage, as well as the continually increasing of costs across the board. In our particular search, we're working with Quorum Health, which, for my frame of reference, owns McKenzie-Willamette and has since 2016. In that time, they were responsible for capital projects of building the new tower at McKenzie-Willamette. They have also been able to get McKenzie-Willamette to achieve the CMS 4-star rating, which only 16% of hospitals in the nation have attained. And just yesterday, they celebrated their 500th open heart surgery process, and they were awarded a 3-star rating by the Society of Thoracic Surgeons. By their words and their demonstration of how they're operating McKenzie-Willamette, I feel stronger that this will be a positive partnership in assisting Area Hospital to remain viable and vibrant in our community for another 50 years. Thank you. Those are my comments. I'm going to start down your end, Renee. Your turn.
Well, I like your idea of meeting in a small group setting. I think that perhaps that could be a real benefit because it does feel very much
You don't scream like I do.
I don't know, my husband. That work? No.
Turn on, it should turn green, I think. Might have to hold it.
I'm not a karaoke person.
Here, try this one.
I like the idea of meeting in a small group. Although there's not been an official forum of a town hall meeting, there have been, of course, public meetings. They're on the website for anyone that wants to keep track of finance committee or the board meetings, of course. I've been on the board a short time, but I can tell you there's not been a lot of people attending. I do think information takes on similar to the game of telephone. One person says one thing, and by the time it gets to the end, it's very different than what originally started out. So perhaps that kind of a forum would be one where we can sit down and talk. I don't know how many people realize that there is a loan out there. I seem to be the one that mentions it every time. Banks don't take kindly to not being paid back, speak from experience. I don't know that the public is really aware of that and how that is really a shadow over us and our discussions.
Yeah.
Whether that's trying to bring on other partners in the community
they just don't have the depth that we need, and we don't have the time. But I think in a small table setting, you could ask those questions on what that means, what it looks like. My personal viewpoint of why it wouldn't work, I'd be happy to share that with you. I stay late after these. We're usually the last ones out. So if people wanted to stay and talk, maybe they didn't realize they could. I don't know. We do go pretty late, I'll say that. But the only other thing I wanted to mention, and totally off topic, is the red carpet storytelling event. Jennifer Collins has certainly been helping get that out. If you're not on social media, the hospital has a wonderful Facebook page. You can certainly read and hear more about that event. It's coming up here February 20th at 6 p.m. at the Egyptian.
Thank you, Renee.
I too think the more informal forum is an excellent idea. We're constrained, and I know you folks are frustrated because we can't respond to you in the setting of a board meeting, but anything we can do to have some back and forth is a positive thing. And so the sooner we can get that set up, I think the better. And I don't know why we always sit together, but we tend to have the same thoughts. We're both kind of be the finance people. My biggest concern has been the loan. That's what's driving this whole thing. We're not doing this because we think we should be dealing with a third party, although some of the other board members will speak contrary to that. But it's mainly being driven by the covenants we have due to our loan. We're under time constraints, and it's really tying our hands. And I wish I had better news for you guys, but being able to sit down at a table and informally back and forth, I think is an excellent idea.
Thanks. It was a pleasure to see Gail, and it reminds me of my years in this hospital. I love this place. I'm gonna live here till I die, and I want a hospital here. That's my motivation, keeping this hospital alive. If you'd asked me a year ago about a private equity firm taking over a hospital, the visceral response is no, never. That will never happen. Segueing what Troy was just saying, my experience of Mackenzie Willamette Hospital, owned by the private equity company, has been a very positive one over the years. I have lots of referrals and referral doctors, and I wasn't even aware that they were owned by this organization. That takes a little bit of the sting out of it. The other responsibility I feel as a board is to our legacy employees. If we allow the bank to take us apart, all those obligations go away. This is one way that we can assure our employees over the years that we are going to honor the commitments we've made to them with the defined benefit plans, and that there's going to be health insurance and there's going to be retirement. I want this place to succeed. I want us to grow. We need capital. I love the concept of a local option. No one has cash. I love the gentleman's comment, tax me. If we had the time, I would let, we need to get our community on board with the fact that if they want to keep a gem of a hospital, it takes cost. It takes money, and I don't know where that's going to come from. I think we need legislative relief in terms of changing the way that rural hospitals are compensated relative to those in the metro areas. And that would be something I would love to have support from our community moving forward. Thanks.
Thank you, Tom. Patrice.
I'm just going to choose D, all of the above. We've talked finances, we have talked taxes, we have talked options and what would be a viable thing to do. And our focus always came back to how do we maintain the services that we have for the community, and that we support
the people that have worked and continue to work at Bay Area Hospital, keep Bay Area Hospital the gem that it is. I worked here myself for almost 43 years, so I understand what goes into caring for people that are patients, but also caring for people that are employees. And I've heard before that people feel like it was their second family, and it's true because you make those bonds throughout the life. Yes, we're a small community, we get to do that a little bit better. But our focus is still to keep Bay Area Hospital open with all of the limitations that insurance, tax base, having to take out loans, forces us to make decisions that can only support the people that live in Curry County.
Thank you, Patrice. So we're going to go to the next part of the board meeting, and I realize that as we go through this, we have many things to cover. I would like us to try to be concise and see if we can get somewhere back close to time. So the first thing we're going to do is fourth quarter compliance monitoring report, and Ms. Howard has a report for us. Can't hear you yet.
Okay, are you hearing me?
Got you now, thank you.
Okay.
Nice to see you.
Okay, thank you. And I will try to go through the report quickly. You do have copies of the report, so if anyone wants to do a deep dive, they can review the report. And to the board members, I'm always available if anyone needs to reach out to me to ask additional questions. So just one correction, this is the fourth quarter compliance report, but it's also combining the annual report as well. So initially, I'll talk about the education numbers, talk a little bit about some of the investigations that we've done, and also the audits that we've done. But before I jump into this, I mentioned it in the last meeting, and I just want to reiterate it, that even in difficult times, it's important to keep our eye on the compliance ball, because compliance helps keep the transparency, the integrity, the patient's care. And so as Bay Area Hospital has been navigating some of these challenges, we've stayed committed to maintaining the compliance programs, maintaining the meetings, doing our audits and our oversight. Now, in the fourth quarter with the education, we still, at the time of the report, we had 34% of the organization who had not completed the education yet, which is a little bit of a downturn from the previous quarters. So we are focusing in on that to make sure that we get those that have not had their education, that they complete their education. We've had 6 privacy investigations during the fourth quarter. 5 of them were new in the fourth quarter, and 1 of them was a carryover from the previous year. And then if you look at the next page gives you the annual numbers, and you can see the trends where for quarters 1, 2, and 3, we were around 11 and 14% of outstanding education. We did go up a little bit this quarter, as I mentioned, but overall, the outstanding education numbers, that meaning those that had not completed their education yet on a timely fashion, was 15.8%. Privacy investigations, you can see from the graph that we have been trending down. Trending down, it could be an indication of a very good thing, meaning that the education is in place and therefore we have less violations. But we do keep an eye on it and make sure that those numbers are not the result of a lack of reporting. Um, so I'm going to go down to just give you a little bit of indication on the next page, on page 3, with where we are with respect to keeping our eye on what's happening in the industry. There were 3 significant things that we've made note of in our compliance watch. One is that the OIG did some audits of the Department of Health and Human Services, uh, handling of HIPAA audits, and they determined that they needed to widen their scope in terms of what they're auditing to. There's also a focus on security, and the OIG is recommending that the Department of Health and Human Services increase their focus on security. So this is something that we note so that we can also make sure we're now keeping a closer eye on the HIPAA violations, making sure we have controls in place for security. And then lastly, that they looked at hospital price transparency, noncompliance, and noted that nearly half of the hospitals had failed in meeting those requirements. So as a result of that, we've added that to our work plan, which we will go over next. But we've added that to our work plan for 2025 to make sure we're auditing the Bay Area hospitals' price transparency and its compliance with those rules. So none of the audits that I talked about involved Bay Area Hospital. This is more for educational purposes and making sure that we are staying aware of what is happening in the industry so we can learn from that. In terms of just meeting the elements of an effective compliance programs with our written policies and procedures, fourth quarter and throughout the year, we did not update any policies or implement any new compliance policies. We've had our compliance meetings on a monthly basis. We've already went over the education numbers, and also we've published 6 articles during the year related to compliance. Effective lines of communication, we're seeing that that is working. During the fourth quarter, we received 9 notifications, and during the year, 49 notifications. The policies and procedures, as always, are available to all employees, and are looking at our risk assessment. Fourth quarter, we did 5 audits. For the year, we audited 13 different areas. The remainder of the report mainly gives you more detail, which I won't go into, more detail on all of the things that I covered in the graphics. So if you just stroll through, you'll see that it just gives a little bit more detail in terms of the education numbers, the audits that the details of the audits that we conducted. Josh Weil sent a long message. Okay. And if you would go to page 7 of the report. Just to give a status with how we did with respect to our work plan. For our audits during the first and second quarter, the first and second quarter audits were completed. As we had some transitions and some staff leaving, we did not complete some of those audits in the third and fourth quarter. Also, the access to medical records, which we call fair warning, those audits were conducted in the first and second quarter, and they were not conducted in the third and fourth quarter. There were a couple of other audits that were due for 2024 that we completed in the first quarter of 2025. That was the physician payment. The electronic health records were completed. We have some audits in process, and there were 2 audits that were deferred over to 2025, and they are part of the 2025 work plan. Okay. Any questions on the report?
Nothing specific, but do you see us trending in an improvement direction overall with our compliance?
I do. I think that there was, other than the education numbers for the fourth quarter, but the other quarters we were definitely trending in the right direction. But the fourth quarter is understandable because we had a lot of moving parts. But I think the fact that we recognized it, it allows us to get back on track for this quarter.
Thank you.
Okay.
So with respect to the fourth quarter compliance, are you finished with that portion, Ms.
Yes.
Howard?
Yes, I am.
I'm going to go ahead and say I would entertain a motion on that portion.
I move we accept the fourth quarter compliance monitoring report.
I have a second.
I'll second.
Any question? All those in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Okay, anything to continue with regard to the annual compliance work? Ms. Howard, that was just, that was for you.
No, nothing,
there.
nothing additional.
So I move to approve the annual compliance work plan.
Okay, have a second?
I'll second.
It's been,
Seconded.
yeah, it's been moved and second. Patrice seconded. Any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor? Aye. Motion passes. Thank you very much, Ms. Howard. Appreciate
Okay.
your time as always.
All right, thank you.
I'm going to jump right to introduction of risk manager. Kelly Dion, you have the floor.
I'd like to introduce Quinn Meyer. She's our new risk manager. She's accepted the role. You guys probably learned from her time in process improvement. She's got a great handle on working for the hospital, and she's going to do great risk.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you.
Are you going to give us a report before the quarter?
I am going to try. So I assumed this role at the very end of the fourth quarter, the beginning of January. I got a little bit of a handoff from the amazing Virginia Cannon. So what I can say about it is that event reporting is consistently increasing. I'm seeing actually two different versions of the same event being reported by nurses at some serious safety events. So that's great to see. That helps us. If it's a peer review event, then we have two different versions, maybe a manager investigation, employee view of it. So that's been great to see. No sentinel events that occurred during the fourth quarter. So we're happy about that. We're reporting our falls through a different program. Instead of through Quantros, it's going through a SharePoint form. So Zach Larson, the PSU manager, is the chairperson for our falls committee. So he initially reviews those and then helps us identify if there's any trends that we need to look at within a unit, specific staff, time of day, any of that we need to consider doing RCAs for. Going on to grievance committee, I've held one of those meetings. We'll be holding another one this month, and I'll be presenting that report at quality. It looks like we were at 100% for Q4 for grievance handling. Any questions about that?
What does that mean? Is that good or bad?
That's good. That's what we want. We want to be compliant with how we respond to our grievances. We have had some changes with our active suits. That I'm still kind of great at getting a hand on, getting to know the lawyers, working with them, sitting for expert testimony. And so the update on that is as reads in here. We did have a couple claims close out that no action was taken on. That's happened since this report actually in the month of January. So that was good to see. More to come on that.
So those are closed and settled, right?
Those ones, nothing even came of them. Yes, they were a potential notice that didn't go anywhere. And with workplace prevention, what I want to call out in that is for the end of the year, you can see that if you look at the trend line for the hands-on events, it started out with 33 code grade calls in the first quarter with 14 hands-on events, ending in the fourth quarter, 45 code grade calls with only 3 hands-on events. There's been a lot of work with our security team with trying to educate them that is a last resort. And so of the whole year, out of all the calls for security, not just code grades, but 4 4,579 calls, there were only 29 hands-on events, so that's 0.63%.
So is there any significance to the 45 in the fourth quarter for the code gray calls?
It was recurrence of same patients while during their stay having repeat calls. Yeah, not an increase in that number of patients, but events with the same patients.
Small number of patients with
Right.
high.
Yeah, usually within the same day or two. Any questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
I would entertain a motion on the fourth quarter risk management report. Need a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. We're going to move to the consent agenda now. And I would entertain a motion on the consent agenda.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any questions? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. And we are now going to go to the Quality and Patient Safety Committee report. As soon as Patrice gets there. And then the floor is yours, Patrice. Thank you.
Did I read that Lynn Menashin has retired?
Yes, Lynn Menashin has retired from the quality board due to the fact she says she's got too many things going on and she still wants to have some retirement.
We should do something.
Yes.
For her years of service.
I did bring that up and we'll make some plan.
Would she use a microphone, please?
Oh, sure. I'm sorry. Yes, we had Lynn Menashin that had been on the Quality and Patient Safety Committee for several years, plus she was the chair prior to my taking the chair position. She had also been on the district board for some years, and her history is in working with quality and patient safety, and she was a wonderful asset to the quality committee. And she has resigned so that she can do some other things that she's signed up for, being on boards, and then also to maintain some part of her retirement. We had a couple of presentations in our last meeting. One was the Chest Pain Center, and they have completed their reaccreditation for the 2025 survey. They had a gold medal received in 2024, and they're hoping they would get another gold this year. We will see. Ms. Merrick reported on our Joint Commission survey. Everything was looking very well with our Joint Commission survey coming up for this next year, and doing the intercycle monitoring surveys to see that what could be worked on, what needs to be focused on, and how we're going to make sure that we're improving those processes. We had one catheter-associated urinary tract infection in November, no central line infections. Our PSI, which is a combination of 90 different patient safety indicators, did not meet goal for December due to a pressure ulcer. So one thing can throw that whole report off. Surgical site infections, they met goal, but it's not finalized due to the surveillance period, because surgical goes over a longer period of time. And readmission and mortality did not meet goal. And we will be meeting again for the month of February. Any questions?
Yeah, on those that they're not meeting goals, is there something that's happening there? Are we moving in the right direction? Are we doing processes to try to address that?
Really?
The quick notes version.
On the PSI 90, the pressure ulcer looks to be actually a coding issue, a documentation issue. So that's under a formal review right now. In this particular case, the patient came in with it, but the documentation wasn't strong enough to meet the measure. So if that gets done, PSI 90 will meet. There's ongoing work going toward mortality and readmissions, Medicare readmissions.
Thank you. I'm going to jump to finance now for the finance committee narrative. Barbara?
Thank you. Yeah, on page 47 of our packet is executive summary. No capital request items require the board's attention at this time, but you can see some of the non-threshold items that were requested, listed in the business cap here. We also had a presentation by McGregor Hall from Deschutes talking about our returns on our investments. And we also got some information from the actuaries on how to handle the defined benefit plan, the different options that we have, and some other updates. And then towards the bottom, you can see the financial results summaries. The operating loss for the month was 1.7 million, year-to-date 10.5 loss. As far as the bottom line, $1.9 million loss for December, and year-to-date 9.2. Some of the bottom line was a little better year-to-date because we had some investment gains that offset some of those losses. The EBITDA, which really stands for, it's the earnings before interest and depreciation and amortization. So it tries to mimic like cash flow. Some of our expenses that we claim on the profit and loss statement are really journal entries at the current time. And so the EBITDA for December was a $781,000 loss, and year-to-date a loss of 4.9 million. Total cash, including the investments in the funded depreciation, is 53.1 million. And we did not meet our debt covenants for the fourth quarter. And that's what's driving some of our concerns that we talked about previously. The rest of the packet, there's on pages 48 through 56 is just the further discussion on the results for the month of December and year-to-date. And then moving ahead to pages 53, 54, and 55 are the financial statements, which give you the details of the performance for the month and year-to-date compared to budget and compared to the prior year. And there's a trend report in there that's sometimes helpful. Page 56 is where the calculations for our debt covenants, and you can see the big red blurb on the first of the covenants, and that's where we're falling behind. We're obligated by our loan agreement to meet the 5 million on a rolling 12-month basis, and we obviously did not do that as of December 31st. And I think that pretty well covers materials. Mary Lou, is there anything you wanted to speak further on the topic?
One thing that I'd like to point out, Barb, is because we did default on that note, the covenant ratio, the bank is going to issue a notice of default and impart a higher interest rate onto the hospital because we did not make the ratios. We have formally requested a forbearance of that default. The bank has asked for some additional information, but they have already told us they will require a substantial prepayment of the amount due to them, which right now is $46 million. So we are currently working with them and trying to negotiate what that substantial amount will be. Right now we have $53 million in the bank. If the bank requires a full repayment of $46 million, that leaves the hospital only 10 days of cash to do business, which is not enough to keep the doors open. So we are working hard with the bank not to have to repay the full amount, but rather just a portion of the amount. Again, as Barb explained earlier, if the bank takes control of the organization, then we will be unable to meet the defined benefit plan obligations because the bank will control all the cash. So again, moving forward with the transaction is vital to maintaining our obligation to the defined benefit pension plan.
I'm sorry, did you name the bank? What bank that is?
So we use BMO Bank. We did try and refinance over 2 years ago, and no local banks were able to take on the debt that the hospital had.
Thank you, Mary Lou. Is that everything? Board members, any questions? Okay, thank you. Let's go to the report of the Chief Executive Officer. Got a strategic affiliation update and a communication plan update. Brian, the floor is yours. Thanks for checking in.
Yes, hopefully the audio is working. Everyone can hear okay. You know, just a quick comment on January. We'll of course get the full report through the Finance Committee here in a couple of weeks. We were very busy in January. You know, we've worked very hard over the last few years to grow our volumes, which means open our doors for more of our local residents when they need hospital care to say, yes, we're available, we're staffed, come with your healthcare needs, and we will take care of you and keep you close to home, close to your loved ones. So January was another success month in terms of that, both on the inpatient side and in the emergency department. We also saw fewer issues with delays in patient discharge. And so that was helpful for our patients. There's actually some attention at the state legislature. Committee's been put in place and advocacy work and bills focused on trying to solve those kinds of issues across the state. Again, in the session that's going on right now. And so we've been working, and we saw some measure of success in January. So really appreciate our physicians, our case management team, and of course our patients and families who are part of that decision-making process. Now to transition just a quick update into our ongoing work with Quorum as we move through due diligence. You know, I mentioned several weeks ago, we uploaded over 3,000 documents, and they have been in the process now of working through all of those, taking in that information, circling back for some additional questions that, you know, arise from that due diligence work. But it's going very well. They've been very appreciative and impressed at the level of response, the completeness, and just to highlight Mary Lou's work to coordinate our efforts there and organize those. So that work has been progressing very well. We continue to meet with them on a weekly basis, continue to have representation from their top leadership, including their CEO, at the table with us virtually every week as we work through a very structured process. We're now moving into a phase with some of that due diligence. We have a number of visits on a calendar. We hosted members of their senior information services team here last week, and they met with our IT leadership, had a chance to join the first part of that meeting and talk with our team members afterwards. At the beginning, you know, definitely some tension, and you know, understood that their chief information officer, with some help from our team, Mary Lou, addressed right with the people in the room that very important question of, are we going to have jobs after Quorum? Their chief information officer was very quick to say, we do not have a busload of replacement workers down at the mill. Our model is more decentralized, and we're absolutely going to need the IT leadership team, the IT team here to make it work. And talking with that team a little bit after the fact, there were some exciting things that Quorum, with their national contract, is able to bring to bear. They have a contract for IT internet services with AT&T. And they've seen AT&T as part of that national contract go ahead and trench that last mile and get that fully redundant cable or fiber into the building. We have worked. We don't quite have that complete physical separation, but just recently, after a lot of good work by our team, we now have a secondary redundant internet connection. They might be able to help us upgrade that physical connection. We also talked about backup. They said, we've got satellite trucks on contract. I joked that we might need that on an amphibious vehicle for our emergency planning. And then they said, well, maybe we need to look at Starlink here, where we could look at a satellite connection. The conversation went on to talk about some of their cybersecurity tools and the software that they have under contract. And our security information officer, his eyes kind of lit up. Like, those are tools that we just can't afford to pay for in our model. So it was a really productive first meeting. This week we had scheduled a visit from the clinical team, and unfortunately their clinical lead came down sick, and so we're in the process of rescheduling that meeting. Tomorrow we have our facilities teams will be hosting phase 1 environmental survey. And so we're now kind of moving past the exchange of data and getting some FaceTime with members of Quorum directly with our team, and have been encouraged by some of those first meetings. The other meeting that we have arranged with Quorum, as well as our councils, is a pre-filing conference with the Healthcare Mergers and Oversight Group of the Oregon Health Authority. That'll be the group that needs to approve this transaction. And so we were hoping, we being Quorum and Bay Area Hospital, that the state would be open for an in-person meeting. We do have a virtual session. That's what the state had available. And so we'll be beginning that process with them next week on Tuesday. Additional conversations. We were able to meet with our current employees who are still participating and earning incremental benefits in the pension plan or the defined benefit plan. We met with them just late last week. Many of them were able to join us, and we had a really rich conversation. And I think it highlighted for me how challenging communication is and complicated. We were probably there 45 minutes, close to an hour before there was an aha kind of experience. We had proposed a few months ago a freeze of the pension plan. We were able to explain the what and the why of that. As we look into the transaction with Quorum, the governmental pension plan is not a plan that is portable and can be moved forward. But one of the aha realizations, pension beneficiaries and those participating in the plan, not as retirees, but still accruing benefits, to get a regular statement. And it provides an estimate of the benefit at different retirement ages, 55, 62, greater than 65. And the benefits that you're able to draw from the pension, the longer you wait to retire, they go up quite significantly. And one of the misunderstandings was that when we were going to freeze the pension, they thought that, well, I'm 55 now, I was planning to work, and so now my benefit is going to be fixed at what I see at that drastically lower amount on my statement and 55. That's not what happens with a freeze. Those retirement are retirement ages and benefit at those retirement ages. So the participants are still in charge of when they start retiring or when they start withdrawing funds from the pension plan. And if they choose to wait until greater than 65, that larger amount that is fully vested, that the board management are working and have worked to put together a plan to fully fund the pension plan. Well, that amount is still there and available for them. And you can see for a couple of folks when they understood that, their tensions really came down. So appreciate our employees for making time to meet with us, and we had a really productive conversation. We also explained there, I know we had the question earlier this evening, what about for our existing retirees? And the reason we hadn't put a communication out is there's no change to communicate. But I think with all the concern, that's a communication that we want to get out to the existing plan participants. And so we'll be working to put that letter together. Physician meetings. We talked about the plan to get scheduled community town hall, and we'll work to get that information published and make that session available. I look forward to that. I appreciated some of the questions and concerns that I heard this evening, and look forward to a less artificial environment than these formal board meetings, where we'd be able to have that dialogue back and forth, hopefully hear more of those questions and concerns, and hopefully have the opportunity to share the rationale and some of the facts. There's still a lot of misinformation out there circulating, and this will be another way to try to get real information out there. With our physicians, we had a virtual session that we have started. Our chief medical officer helped put this together. And the format that we're using is just a quick update on the process with quorum, open it up for a Q&A from our medical staff members. And then we sort of had a feature aspect of the transaction, right? The deal, if you will. And this time we pulled up the letter of intent, went through the section that talked about governance, the section that talked about the commitment for services, and really talked with the physicians about how the board and management and quorum have thought about putting teeth and commitment behind those words for local governance and for an ongoing commitment to services. And we'll have another one of those sessions in the evening this time for physicians where that time frame works better next week, and probably dive into a secondary topic. Also wanted to let the board know that we did successfully retain a lobbyist to help us more effectively monitor bills that would be of concern to Bay Area Hospital, as well as work to educate our elected officials, our legislators, in how some of the contemplated legislation can hurt or help Bay Area Hospital. I'd like to thank Senator David Brock Smith and Senate Bill 1000 with its potential commitment of $10 million in funding. We also think there's an opportunity to work with the legislature to think about some long-term funding for maybe the Bay Area Hospital and the one or two other hospitals that have some of these rural challenges, but get paid like big city hospitals on a prospective or a DRG payment, and don't enjoy some of the cost-based reimbursement that some of the other hospitals in our county enjoy. So we're going to dive into that work. Would not be surprised to see that take a legislative session or two, but you got to start somewhere, and now is a good time for us. I would like to turn the time over and allow our Director of Marketing and Communication to just provide an update on some changes that we have made, really in response to some of the feedback that we've had over the last several weeks here. Again, trying to improve communication and information flow. So Kim Winker.
Yes, thank you. Since about last June, we set forth some goals about communication, and they're pretty straightforward, but we just wanted to be proactive in our communication, try to be transparent, answer questions along the way, And I would say that lately what we want to do is we even want to be more clear and factual and address misinformation that we've seen rising in social and various platforms. Along the way, we've had lots of different communication vehicles. So we have a dedicated webpage at bayareahospital.org/hereforgood. We have our Facebook page. If you don't follow us on Facebook, I would highly encourage you to do that because that's where we communicate. Every day there's a post going out. And at least once a week, there's a post about what's going on with the transaction. We have emails that go out to staff. We have a dedicated internal website page. We have a weekly employee newsletter. We feature an article in there. Every week we try to have some facet that we talk about in terms of the transaction. We have our state meetings, and we've had lots of media coverage and pitch story opportunities. So we've taken advantage of all of the vehicles that we could possibly use. I just want to point out that since June, we've had 22 articles in the media cover this story. We've had about 3,300 people go to the website. So somebody's getting information. And we've had 20 Facebook posts with about 60,000 people seeing that content. So again, I would highly encourage you to follow us. The next slide is just some examples of what these vehicles look like. So we've got our Here for Good webpage, our Facebook page, and then the Pulse newsletter. We've had many different articles, as I mentioned, and I just want to recap that we did do the survey last summer, and we had about 800 responses to that. They were open-ended questions. There was opportunity for that, and those responses were read by all the board members and management. So that was a very valuable tool to collect feedback.
And that was sent out, Kim, that was sent out to everybody in the district, correct?
Yes, it was.
And do you remember
yes,
the percentage we got back?
On the Facebook page, on the website. So along the timeline, we've had various things, but June 12th, we had our announcement. Then we moved into some town halls. We've done surveys, board presentations. We've had community updates. We presented the survey results. Then in September, we started what we called our Myth versus Fact series, trying to address some of the misunderstandings about what might be happening. And lately, our communications are around the expiration update. We've just done continuous email and social posts. Then December 11th, we announced that we were entering the non-binding LOI with Forum. And then we went into due diligence period, which we're still in. And we responded to over 20 different media requests. And then we're hoping to have the due diligence closed in a letter of agreement by March 31. So in light of this, what we've done is launched a newly designed web page. And I hope that people find it more easy to navigate. It's a little more clear in its messaging. There's hot links at the top there now, so you can jump to different sections. And there's also a new downloadable fact sheet. And this fact sheet has information about who is Quorum, acknowledging their history. It's very factual. It talks about what you may have heard and then what the facts are. And we are sharing all of this information via Google, radio, social media, email. We're having one-on-one conversations. And then, as Brian and Tori mentioned, the public meetings starting next week. So please go to the new design website. Enjoy that. If you have any comments or thoughts about what you see there or need different types of information, please email Here for Good. That email is at the top of the webpage for readers.
Kim, I just wanted to say I went to the webpage, and so far that's been the easiest to find and smoothest to navigate. So thank you. You could get right to it and just click whatever and go right now. So appreciate that. Is that everything? Board, any questions?
Yes, thank you.
Brian, can I impose, since we had several questions about alleged nepotism, that's the elephant in the room for me, and I'd like to just address that. When we recruited Brian as a CEO, at the time, in that dinner conversation, we talked about having his wife work as a chaplain. What was news to me is that this is a JCH requirement. Joint Commission requires us to have that chaplaincy position. 80% of hospitals have that same, hopefully I'm not or not.
It's not.
I'll just yell. Nonetheless, what I'm really trying to say is that I've read things online that suggest that Lindsay Moore is paid some astronomical salary, and it is not true. It's hard when your wife is being criticized for having a job. Generally, when you hear something and it doesn't make sense, check it out. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Tom. I'm gonna carry on with the meeting. Thank you for the report, Brian. Thank you, Kim, for your work. And now we're gonna have to move into executive session. So, Megan, can you take us into executive session?
I'll take us in, and we will let everyone know when it's done if anyone wants to wait outside.
As an update, the only thing afterwards that we will go over is the medical staff report.
Yeah. The Board of Directors for the Bay Area Hospital District will now meet in executive session pursuant to ORF 192.
So now we're connected to Kelly.
Just give me the nod when we're ready to move forward, Denise.
You're good.
We can go?
That's back up. People have been invited back into the room and they're coming now, so you can start when you're ready.
I'll wait just a minute to see if anybody else comes in. I think that's probably it. Okay, so we are out of executive session. We have an action item in front of us related to the credentialing report. I would entertain a motion.
I move to approve the credentialing report.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Been moved and seconded. Any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Dr. Atlery gave us her medical staff report during executive session. So having no further business to attend, I will adjourn the area hospital district meeting at 7:52. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
And we are
Board member, thank you,
available.
staff.
Public, if you want to talk to us, we're here.
That is really good.
Denise.
Yes, sir.
2 cents. Number one, thank you so much. This really addressed everything. Let's try addressing Barb's concern. See if we can take these 2 sections and move them like a 40 degrees. Yeah, but it doesn't have to be round, whatever works. So we'll lose a few seats, but we've got the other room to fill over, and this wasn't completely full. If we could have that swing that way a little bit, and this one swing this, so the board can see this